What is happening, people? Steve Mayeda here. This is the Daily Awesome Podcast. Life is a journey, people, but all we are worried about is today. And this is actually an episode that we're making special because this came up from Hypnotica's podcast that he did with me. If you're unfamiliar with him, he's one of the most legit, Eric Von Sydow is his full name, legit men's coaches there is in the world. If you give him money, it's going to be worth it. But we did this call and it lasted about 2 hours, and some of the TSL guys from my group were on there and they're like, man, you let some people down. And so I'm making this special for Hypnotica's group, but also I'm going to broadcast it because we talked about some crazy shit, man. We're on a TSL call. It's the 20th of November. I just got done flying back from California, back in Austin, back home. I've been home for about 3 hours, and I've been on this call for 2 of those hours. Beautiful. So gentlemen, look, we are men, and we need to listen to the voice of man and masculinity. How do I get my masculinity back? How is it that when I've had everything taken away from me in my masculinity, whether that's through your physicality, through society, through the courts, through, a botched fatherhood, divorce, whatever it is, all these different excuses we have to having our lives be robbed of our masculinity, which they may have been. How do we get it back? And what is it that happens when we do get it back? How do we act? How are we as men who've regained our masculinity different from the men who've given up? And I want to talk about a lot of this stuff. So the question came on, and guys who's on the Hypnotica's Master Circle, check that out. If you're not on it, it's a Facebook group. It's badass. It's amazingly badass. I'm not sure if you have to pay to get on it, but please do pay. Give Hypnotica, Eric Von Sydow, your money. He's a badass coach. Love the guy. So we were on this call, and there was a guy, he was talking about this. He wrote in a question. And Jim from our groups, as well as a couple other guys, Steve-O, Alex, a few other people were saying, man, Steve, you dropped the ball. You dropped the ball on this. Because he said, man, I was a Marine. I hurt my back. I wrestled throughout high school. I did things. I did masculinity, and I feel that it's gone now. And see, this is the story of every man. If you're a man and you're living life, you're going to have your masculinity robbed from you. It's going to be taken away. It's not even robbed, it's life. That's what happens. You're going to marry somebody, she's going to fuck you over. You're going to maybe join the Marine Corps. You're going to do all those things. You hurt your back. You have a degenerative disc. I'm sorry about that. You have things that are keeping you from doing the things that put your place in society, that gave you an identity of the core of you. And see, this is what we don't talk about as men, and it's so fucked up because we have all these groups. We have men's groups all over the place, and man, the TSL, the MD Excellence group is one of the best ones that you're ever going to come across, and I'm sad that it is only me on this podcast talking about it, but we're branching out, doing more interviews with the guys and so on. That's coming your way because the beauty that comes out of that is key. But this is the thing. We talked about this today, and this is huge, man. I'm sorry it's taking me so long to get here. But men and how they deal with trauma. What do we do as men? See, when we have that masculinity robbed from us, that's the trauma. And how do we act in trauma? And this reached down to this huge discussion. We've been on the call for 2 hours, and we've been really talking about this and many other things. But we were talking about how women deal with trauma. We were talking about battered women and the different cycles that we go through with addiction, with different things which conflict with your life, which puts you at the lowest parts of yourself. But how do we deal with that as men? Because it's different. And see, the world expects men to deal with trauma in the same way that women deal with it, which is a very emotional thing, right? And it's seen in all these different ways, which we don't understand as men. We can have an opinion about it and all those sorts of things, but we don't fully understand what they go through. And for me, I've worked with a lot of people, mainly men, but definitely women, who've dealt with trauma. And there's things that I get and understand, but I also understand how a man deals with so much more. And see, these are the things we don't talk about. And I want to really clear the lines of this because a bunch of the fucking men's rights pussies and whatever the fuck you are, like who are sitting on Reddit or online or on these bullshit groups, not opening up, not doing anything to better yourselves, pointing out some really good stuff, having your mind kind of going in the right direction, but fueled by hate and blame. I always say I ramble on about stuff or don't fucking get it, whatever, man. Shitload of experience coaching with people. In fact, every hour of the day, every hour, like I wake up, I call the people that I'm working with on addiction. I talk to the people in my men's group. I'm interacting with them constantly. Like, I have a ton of experience in this. It may not be the thing that resonates with you, but man, there's no doubt I'm always working on it. I get clear results on it. They're pretty obvious to see. I get it, motherfuckers. But so men deal with trauma in a different way. And how do we deal with it? Man, how do we deal with it? Men these days are killing themselves. We're killing ourselves. In Western societies, 75% of suicides are from men. If we go into other societies, it goes up even more. And see, here's the fucked up thing about all of this is, why is this happening? And we get it. We get the red pill guys saying like, oh my God, this statistic. But then it moves into this like, feel sorry for us, or we're going to bitch about it so much and get the laws right. No, these are true things. These are true. Man, these are my people. Dude, I know somebody once a month who fucking kills themselves. I don't go to their funerals usually because there's too goddamn many of them. Man, I see it over and over again, especially with addiction. I get it, man. I'm always working with it. Always working with it. But here's the thing. Why the fuck is it happening? Why are these things happening? And what about, this got brought up on our call by Steve-O, so what about the slow burners? What about the guys who are just rotting away, who are dying because they couldn't be the man that they used to be? What about the guys who've given up and they're slowly growing cancer or slowly degenerating more, getting obese, giving up on themselves because there's not a place for them in the world anymore because they lost. And when they lost, and man, we're going to lose. I'm going to lose. And I'm going to lose in a way where I don't know how to get better, but we're going to get to the solution here in this podcast. Sorry, I've been yelling a lot on my vacation, so my voice is kind of thrashed. But there's all these men who've given up on themselves. And see, this is the thing is a man. There's plenty of times in my life where I've been, faced with something to give up on myself. And it wasn't that I rallied back for a cause. It wasn't that I rallied back to, get the support and the pat on the back from people. I didn't have any of that. It's because I rallied back because I needed to live and I needed to have responsibility of myself and that I needed to accept the situation that I was in. Remember, acceptance gives us strength. It doesn't make us weak like so many of the guys out there. And I wasn't just looking for the alpha solution. See, the thing about men is men are physical. We need to move. We have determination. We have strength. We want to fight. We want to do things. We want to be right. We want to have the power and all these different things. But at the same time, so many men want that, so much to the point where they negate the emotion, the vulnerability, the hurt, the sadness, the not knowing what to do, and the confusion. So we hide from that. And we create men's groups like all these things out there. Like, what's the fuel behind the MGTOW group? Oh man, I got robbed by women and they suck and women are fucked up. And here's the fucking statistics on all of it of why I'm right about this. So I can be powerful because I feel weak now. And I don't want to show that weakness. What's behind the red pill? It's the same thing. They're saying awesome stuff. Dude, men's rights are fucked. Women's rights are fucked in some ways too, but men's rights are fucked when it comes to custody, when it comes to our work, when it comes to our stress levels, all these different things. So how do we get into the solution of it rather than bitch about it, rather than hate women about it, rather than justify why we're fucked? How about not bring any anger or blame to that situation and learn a different form of masculine energy? We're so worried about being alpha that we forgot that we could feel. And then when we're told we can feel, a lot of times it's in this feminine way. It's in this way that women do it, or the model of emoting and being vulnerable and hurting and sharing things and going through our shame or our guilt about a situation is usually modeled off of something that is very feminine. And see, as a man, you got to learn to work both. But you have to learn the masculine way, the way of man that can hurt, that can be feminine, that can move into the pain and that can cry, that doesn't need to think that that's a compromise in our identity when we do that. And man, that's what happens here. And it's so crazy, man. And so what Jim was saying, he's like, Steve, you dropped the ball. There's this guy, he's writing in the chat box on Hypnotica's, interview that we did a couple days ago. And he said, he's asking about his masculinity. And in a way, we didn't get to the depth of it, but we're just assuming, and we could totally be wrong. But at some point in our lives, we're going to lose. We're going to be forced to give up on ourselves. There's one day where I won't be able to walk. I won't be able to do jujitsu. I won't be able to do podcasts. I won't be able to do all these different things, and I'm going to have to adapt to another thing. But in that, I need a brotherhood. I need people where I could say the frustrations, the sadness, the hurt, how I was robbed from that, how it happened too quick, how I got screwed over by the woman, how I lost my money, how I lost my business, the shame in that, and the failure in that, and how that makes me so fucking terrified. I mean, Jesus, we were talking about this. In fact, I'm going to take a note because we were talking about PTSD and trauma. And, the thing is we have so many people addressing this, so many men doing this, and there's not a solution. There's not a group of guys talking about this, and it's really sad. And men are dying for it. Men are fucking dying from it. Men went to war. Men went through trauma. In my field, there's a lot of guys who, in fact, this is crazy. I was arguing with my brother about this. I said, man, every person that I know who has a chemical dependency problem, who has a drug addiction in recovery has been sexually abused. He's like, it's not every. I'm like, man, if it's not every, it's pretty goddamn close because every single one of them I know has. It's bad, especially more with women than with men. But dude, man, you see those things happen. You see traumas that you can't make sense out of that rob you from something, that have taken something away from you. Whether that's your masculinity, whether that's your sense of self, whether that's your identity of who you are, whether that's your ability to love, it's gone and it's taken from you. And we don't have an outlet to talk about it. And see, we don't have an outlet to talk about it to learn to go past it. Because the beauty of the man who can learn principles, whether they're spiritual principles, I like to use that term, but I know that can piss a lot of people off. You have like problems with religion and so on, or principles on how you can make something out of this. Man, we're not allowed to do that anymore. We're not allowed, and it's just so fucked up, and it's sad, and it's one of the biggest tragedies of the story of men these days. Yet at the same time, we're so caught up with this pain, this loss, this feeling of disempowerment as men that we become obsessed with the opposite, which is the alpha. And that's all a part of masculinity. I'm not here to deny that. I think there's a lot of myths about the alpha male, and I think the more that people put that out there, the more it shows how fucked up you are. But there is strength in masculinity. But my strength comes with a reality of that sometimes I lose and sometimes I don't get my way, and that time is going to run out. And that power and prestige and status and fear, or the ability to contain something that is so masculine that people can't not notice it, is going to go away from me. And that the true story, the true journey of me as a man is going to be losing all those things that I worked so hard to gain. And that something that I'm left with, whether that be my spirit, my essence, my core, is going to be able to guide me into something. And man, I'll tell you, I'll be floored. I'll be put to my knees multiple times in my life. Fucked, put down. But if I don't have something to build me back up, that means that I'm not looking hard enough. Because it's always within you. And I've had enough bad shit happen in my life and seen enough bad shit, worse shit happen to people, to men, and have them come out and rebuild something, that it's beautiful. Stop trying to be a winner, guys. Stop looking for that. Know how to win, know how to lose, know how to accept, know how to fucking lose. Because that is going to be one of the most valuable skills that you have. In any case, hopefully that wasn't gibberish, but if it was, hey, I'm sorry. I got an audience. And this is a new audience. This is the Daily Awesome Podcast. I put it on a new YouTube channel. And at all of our podcasts, you can also find the free stuff linked down below to join our men's groups. We have the best groups. And the reason why we have the best groups is because we have calls like this Wednesday night on December the 20th. Just getting back, just only being in Texas for a few hours, and we're on this call, man, dedicating it. There's 13 guys from all around the world talking right now. We're probably going to talk for 3 or 4 more hours into the wee hours of the night about shit like this, and it's badass. But if you don't want to join MD Excellence or TSL Online, I get it, man. I get it. Check out our channel. I put in some suggested videos for you. It's a good place to start, and also subscribe be a part of what we're doing. And also on that free stuff link down below, it doesn't tell you about just our paid programs. It tells you about all the free stuff that we give away, which is a ton. Better yourself, because it is a journey. Your journey of masculinity is now. And what matters most is what you do today. And that's it, guys. All right. Thank you so much. Steve Mayeda signing off. Email me if you have any questions. Tag me on Facebook. We'll talk soon. Lates.